Everybody, let's do calendar today. What comes after 8? Today is the 9th, November 9th, 2020. Yesterday was Sunday. Today is Monday. And tomorrow will be Tuesday. Let's sing one of our Days of the Week songs. Ready? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There are 7 days, there are 7 days, there are 7 days in a week. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There are 7 days, there are 7 days, there are 7 days in a week. All right, everyone, let's see if we can count to 100 by 10s and 5s. We're going to count by 10s first. We start with 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Now let's count to 100 by 5s. We start with 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. Great job. Now, let's talk a minute about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is coming up really soon, and that's what we're going to be talking about this week and next week. But did you know that we didn't always have Thanksgiving? There was one first Thanksgiving. Do you know how it happened? Well, let me tell you. So a long, long time ago, there were some pilgrims living in the country of England. England is across the ocean. And the pilgrims were not happy with the king. The king was making rules and laws that they thought were unfair. So they had finally had enough and they were not happy. So the pilgrims decided to leave England. Now this was a long time ago. There were no planes and no cars and no trains. The only way for them to leave was to get on a boat. So they got on a boat, and the boat was called the Mayflower. And the Mayflower didn't have an engine. The way it got around was it had sails, and the sails would catch in the wind, and that's what would make the boat go. Now they had to go across the entire ocean, the entire Atlantic Ocean. Look on a map later and look at the Atlantic Ocean. It's huge. And it took a long time. It took about 2 months for them to go across the ocean. And they had to eat food that wasn't very tasty because they had to bring food that wouldn't spoil. They didn't have refrigerators. And a lot of people got seasick. Seasick is when you rock back and forth too much and it makes your tummy hurt. And so they were seasick and they didn't have good food, and a lot of people were really sick and even died on the ship. But finally, one of the crew saw land, and do you know what he said? He said, "Land ho!" That means, "I see land." And do you think they were happy after about 2 months on that ship? Absolutely. They were so happy to see land. Now, when they got to land, there were no stores, there were no houses, there was nothing but forest. So what were they going to do? Where were they going to live? For a while, they stayed on the Mayflower because that was their only shelter. But they built some houses, and eventually they moved into the houses on the land. Problem is, they didn't really have enough time to grow a bunch of crops and have enough food for the winter. There were no grocery stores, so they couldn't just go shopping. they had to find their own food or they had to grow their own food, and they didn't. So a lot of people got sick that winter, and some even died. And it was a really rough, bad winter for the Pilgrims. When spring came around and it got warmer, some Native Americans decided to visit the Pilgrims, and they were friendly and they wanted to help the Native Americans. So you know what they did? They showed the Pilgrims how to grow crops, and they also taught them how to fish and hunt and do a lot of things so they would have enough food for the next year. Do you think that they were good friends to the Pilgrims? They were. So all that fall, that spring and summer, the Pilgrims and the Native Americans are working together so that the Pilgrims will have enough to eat. When fall rolled around, guess what? They had so much food. The Pilgrims were so thankful, and they were so thankful to the Native Americans for helping them and being their friend. So they decided to have a huge feast, and they invited their friends, the Native Americans, to the feast. And the feast lasted for 3 days. For 3 days, they played games together, they laughed and talked, and they ate together for 3 days. Does that sound like fun? It sounds like fun to me. So that was the very first Thanksgiving. Now, since then, today we have Thanksgiving in our homes, and we might have a lot of good food to eat, and we might have our family or friends over to share the meal with. So that's how we carry on the tradition. So that is the story of the first Thanksgiving.